Dun, 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 dun. Insert the music here. Insert the music here. All right. Good evening and welcome to Merriwether's World. I am your host, Dr. Mark Merriwether Vorderbruggen, and this is my world. For those of you who don't know me, I am the author of Idiot's Guide Foraging, creator of the Foraging Texas website, and all-around egomaniac. All right. So tonight it is episode 72 of Merriwether's World. This is a very special episode. Remember those after-school episodes growing up for you Gen X type people? And others where they had a very special episode. That's what tonight is, because tonight I am going to protect myself from lawsuits with this episode. So, won't that be fun? Before we start, as usual, got to do a little housekeeping type stuff here. So, like I said, everything with Foraging Texas starts with foragingtexas.com. So if I just throw a link up to that, it's a great place to find all your foraging information for Texas. And because Texas is so ecologically diverse, most of the plants found in Texas are also found in a lot of other states and or Canadian provinces. So, Foraging Texas could be Foraging USA. All right. And now that the cool weather is getting closer, the classes are starting up. Yay, the crowd goes wild. And I just erased something. Let me try that again. Okay. Yay, the crowd goes wild. All right. So here is a list of upcoming classes. And let me just try this for a second. Okay. So Foraging Texas. And then the upcoming classes, look at all these upcoming classes, lots of upcoming classes, mostly in the Dallas and Austin area. But when I say the Austin area, I mean between Austin and San Antonio. So if you're in San Antonio, it's very quickly to pop up to where these classes are located. And then also some out in East Texas area. So very, very, very cool there. All right. Oh, for those of you who are looking for more of these videos, definitely check out my YouTube page, the Dr. Merriwether. Did that go through? And all the previous episodes of Merriwether's World is on there. A bunch of other videos from foraging classes. And of course, the donut shop at the beginning of the world, my morning, weekday morning class, 7:30 to 8 a.m. class discussion. It's kind of turned into the science of the news sort of thing lately. Okay. Oops, where was that? So, other exciting thing. Dun, dun, dun. So the brain pill is out now from the Medicine Man Plant Company. This is the company that I work for, and I'm basically the Medicine Man for. So if I can just put a link up there, you can get it from Amazon and learn about it there. But in a nutshell, it supports proper mental and brain functioning. Pretty cool. What is that? Okay, it'll catch up to me. A few other sponsors. So let me share with you first. Arbor True. So these are a company devoted to absolute perfection when it comes to maintaining the health of your trees. So when you hear the term tree doctor, if you look it up in Wikipedia, there should be a picture. There we go. Of Arbor True there. So a number of staff certified arborists, they can analyze what's ailing your tree down to the genetic level of the infection and then figure out the best way of treating it. But in addition to that, they have a really cool new product out It is a bacteria. So if you know anything about legumes are a class of plants that have evolved a symbiotic relationship with a type of bacteria that can take nitrogen gas from the air and break it apart and attach it to oxygen and make nitrates, which is the nitrogen fertilizer that plants need. So these nitrogen fixing plants are a natural source of fertilizer for the surrounding plants. That's cool, but if you want that sort of bacteria to symbiotically bond to other types of plants other than legumes, there hasn't been anything out there. Well, ArborTrue has actually found a bacteria that will do that, will bind to just about any plant root and turn it into a nitrogen fixing symbiotic bacterial connection. So really, really, really cool. So whenever they come out to a location, one of the things they do with the owner's permission is apply this soil bacteria to the location to convert all the plants into nitrogen fixing. Very cool. Okay, so that's ArborTrue, and I got to do a special thank. They are the ones paying for the upgraded internet connection that I am now using, so I should be coming through faster and at a higher pixel count. So everything you see should be clearer now, thanks to them. So another company I got to do a shout out to is Wazoo Survival, who I work with, them and Nicole Appelian from the History Channel's Alone Show to come up with the foraging bandana. So the foraging bandana has 12 of the top North American plants. To basically help you find food, medicine, fire starter, cordage, and also, if needed, poison, because you're tired of being lost in the woods and just want to end it quick. No, don't kill yourself. But the Wazoo foraging bandana, let me put a link up to that. And I got to point out, if you buy that bandana, I get a chunk of the proceeds. So yay, yay. And also Wazoo Survival has paid for the StreamYard account that I'm actually using to broadcast all this. So hooray for Wazoo Survival. And just to throw the ArborTrue link up also. So if you need a tree doctor, ArborTrue is your people. If you need a bandana that'll help you survive in the wild, Wazoo Survival. If you need any sort of bee or bee-related material, Uncommon Bees is the place to go. So they have over 62 different types of infused honey now. Where is the order on it? There it is. So, and they have different sorts of beeswax type stuff. They have granulated honey. They have raw unfiltered honey. They have bee pollen collections, honey sticks, creamed honey, infused honey, a bazillion types of infused honey, all this sort of thing. And what's really great about them, well, one, they're having me come out to their location September 5th to do some foraging classes for people out there in East Texas near Jasper. But from now until midnight, if you use the Forking Weeds coupon code, you get 25% off your order. Any other time during the week, if you use Forking Weeds, you get 10%. So you definitely want to check out their herb infused and spice infused and garlic infused and CBD isolate infused honeys. My personal favorite, and it's over by the coffee maker, is their Buzz Honey, which is basically the honey version of a Monster energy drink. Very, 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 very cool. So another, yay. So Buzz Honey, you can see it's almost empty, but can I get the, where's the ingredient? I can't see it. If we can do the ingredients here. Focus. Anyway, as taurine and the green coffee bean infused honey. So very, very cool there. So another organization I work with, the Campcraft Outdoors. And let me put the link up for there. And like I said, these are the people that allow me to bring my information to you. So I'm really hoping you support them because they support me. And you hear me talk about their packs. Let me just handcrafted bags here. So they use the canvas, hand cut, sewn here in the United States, hand waxed to make them waterproof and tough. So they have all sorts of different kind of traditional style bushcraft packs for the people who need something that isn't made of plastic and nylon, but you're going off trail, tearing through the bush, and normally would get your backpack ripped to shreds if this stuff survives. So Campcraft Outdoors, big sponsor of mine. Okay, next one, Fear and Dread in Vidor, Texas. You've heard me talk about them, and I got some special things from them, but let me throw this up here. So you've often heard me talk about the Individual Patrol Officer's Kit. Let me just bring this up for a second. So this is a vacuum-packed first aid kit that has the gauze pads, the tourniquet, the gloves, chest wound sealing sort of thing. I got these in the different vehicles. They gave me 2 to give as a giveaway. I just need to set up the giveaway so I can give them away to 2 viewers. Won't that be cool? So Fear and Dread, basically for any sort of survival gear. I'll tell you right now, they pretty much are out of guns, but they have a lot of things on back order. But then where is it? The optics, parts and gear. So all sorts of, like I said, the different first aid gear. Here we go. Survival supplies. Good stuff there. So located in Vidor, Texas, small Texas town, small Texas business. And so if you use the code Merriwether, you'll get 5% off on orders of $100 or more. Okay. Campcraft. Of course. Herbs. Ricardo Shilly. I don't know if he's here tonight. But yeah, if you're up in the Cushing, Texas area and you are looking for an herbal shop, these are the people that I will send you to. And even if you are not located in Cushing, Texas, or in an easy drive to the East Texas town of Cushing, Texas, they will do a Zoom video conference with you to talk about what the issue might be and try and figure out what would be the best herbal concoction for you. They are the ones that supply me with the Battle Mage tea, which basically keeps me running full blast forever. So, and let me put there, should be Wednesdays. So let me just fix that. Okay, and here is the link to them. All right, hopefully that's gone through. It looks like it's going through. Cool. Okay, so Arbor True, bees. Okay. So let's go back to foraging Texas here for a second. Woof. All right. Actually, let's go back to me for a second. Actually, let me take a drink of water here. All right. So I've been pushing this episode for a while. Saying it's a very special episode talking about pokeweed. And so let me just bring up quick the pokeweed page here on Foraging Texas. Pokeweed. There we go. Pokeweed, also known as poke salad, poke salat, all sorts of sort of things there. So Phytolactasine americana is the scientific name, somewhat uncommon, but let me jump. Well, here's the thing. All parts of the plant, under the danger, all parts of the plant contain different amounts of extremely toxic, potentially fatal alkaloid, components, especially the root stems, mature leaves, and seeds. So tonight, that's what I'm going to talk about. Pokeweed, I'll do a little bit about when you can eat it, and then a whole bunch of stuff where I personally recommend you do not eat it. So some parts you can, in a very specific way in treatment you can eat, but there's a lot of information out there about people, asking, can I eat this part, or can I eat this part, or my grandma used to eat this, or my grandpa used to do that, blah, 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 all sorts of stuff. And they asked me if it's okay, and I'm going to say no. And just to jump to the chase, here's why I personally warn against eating anything other than the young leaves of the pokeweed after the young leaves have been boiled 2 or 3 times. So when I post something about pokeweed, I know it's going to generate controversy. There's going to be, when I say the berries are poisonous, people are jumping up and saying, no, 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 I eat 2 berries a day. They're not poisonous. Okay. So here's the thing. The berries, the stems, the leaves, they're all filled with some really severe toxins. Yes, in tiny, tiny, tiny doses, that severe toxins will not kill you. They'll still have some effects on your body, but they're not going to kill you. If you take, larger doses, yeah, there's a good chance of death. Now, as of 2 days ago, I have 25,000 followers on Facebook. Absolutely amazing. Astounds me. 25,000 followers. I've been doing this since about 2008 and the Facebook stuff since about 2010. So for over, let's say over a decade, I have been teaching people about wild edibles, especially online. Through my website and, classes like this and other presentations and Facebook and all this sort of thing. And something I've noticed, and it's not many, but there are some people out there who don't pay close attention to details. They'll remember something, like they may remember what the berries look like. There's the berries. In fact, let me jump over. Let me stop sharing this and let me do this. Okay. Oops. Share. Okay. So this is a map of where it is. But let me bring up the berries quick. A good picture of the berries here. Okay, so the berries of the pokeweed, very, 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 very distinctive. The red stem, the stalk, the spiral of berries down it. The berries are some sort of flat thing. So it doesn't take long for the image of the berries to get in a person's head. What seems to take a long time, speaking from experience, speaking from questions I get from people all the time, is, hey, you said I could eat these, right? No, I've said you couldn't eat them. I said other parts of the pokeweed plant are edible under very specific conditions. But so many people just remember the berries, think edible, and away they go. So to protect myself, purely covering my ass, I tell people these berries are not edible, because if I say they're edible, then people will take a whole bunch of them and eat them. Trust me, I know this. People will do that. There have been numerous cases where I've gotten an email from people saying, hey, I heard you say sometime that I could eat X plant and I ate it and I got really, really, really sick. What happened? And it's like, no, I never said, look at my spite. I say you cannot eat that. But people have a tendency to, this is going to be a ranting evening, by the way, folks. People look at the pictures, assume because the picture is on Foraging Texas or in my feed, it is a good plant. No, 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 no. That's why I keep saying over and over, do not eat these. Like there are people that say, yeah, I eat 2 a day to help with my arthritis or help with my constipation, or, okay, great. You eat those 2 a day. But if I say even, you can eat up to 2 berries a day, there's going to be people out there that go, well, 2, I can probably eat more. Strip, eat, blah, explode into a bloody mess. So I need some water. So that is why whenever I talk about the pokeweed, I always talk about it being poisonous a lot more than I say anything about any sort of edibility. Wow, there are like no comments tonight. Okay, so tonight I'm going to walk through the different poisons in the pokeberry, in the pokeweed, and the effects they have on the human body, and structures and all this stuff. It's actually kind of cool. But before we start, I do want to cover the edible parts, because the leaves really are absolutely fantastic when they are picked at a very young age. So here you can see the young pokeweed just poking out. It's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches tall, up to 8 inches tall. You can eat them if you boil them at least 2 times. And my personal preference is 3 times. So if you take the leaves when the plant is first showing up in the late winter, early spring, no bigger than your hand from like ground to the fingertip, that's when you want to harvest the plant. You take the leaves, you put them in some cold water, you bring that water to a boil. Once it gets to a boil, boil it less than a minute, take it off the heat, pour off the water, put fresh cold water in the pan over the leaves, bring that to a boil it, a minute, dump it off, and then put some more cold water in there, bring it to a boil, and pour it off again. So I recommend 3 times, mainly to cover my ass, to make sure no one gets any of these poisons. So, when you do that, it's actually really, really good food. So, and actually I need to swap screens here a minute. So let me do this again. So share screen, application window, this share. So one other screen I wanted to bring up was the nutritional value of the pokeberry shoots before they're boiled. So they are extremely high in things like iron and phosphorus and copper and magnesium. So a lot of different minerals are there inside the cell walls. And then there's a bunch of vitamins. They have a huge amount of vitamin B, a huge amount of vitamin A, absolutely tremendous amount of vitamin C for a 1 cup. Is it 1 cup? It was 1 cup, right? Yeah, 1 cup serving, 60 grams. So from a nutritional value, they are extremely, extremely nutritional. And even after the boiling, the only thing it does besides destroying the toxins, the young toxins, or reducing the toxins down to a point where they're harmless, all the minerals remain, all the vitamin B remains. You lose some of the vitamin C, but considering you're starting with 241.78% of the daily recommended amount of vitamin C, even after boiling 3 times, there's usually at least 100% of the daily recommended amount of vitamin C in 1 cup of pokeweed. So amazingly, amazingly nutritious foods. And usually they appear in the early spring. Let me stop sharing this again. And then share that again. So, late winter, early spring, when these things are first popping up, they're usually the first green thing that's really popping up again. And actually, let me show you. Whoops. So where they are found, all across North America, except for some of the mountain states and the prairie. But, all through here, the pokeweed was actually one of the first greens to show up after the winter. And so people who were starving for greens were really, really, really excited to find it, once they figured out how to properly prepare it so that they didn't die. So it became more popular in the South rather than the North. The main thought is, in general, poverty in the South is a much lower level of poverty than poverty in the North. And so it was more important for the Southerners to be eating the pokeweed. But like I said, when it's young sort of plant, you're good to go. At this stage here, now it's over a foot tall. Nope. At that point, the concentration of poisons in the leaves and the stems are too high. Even in the process of boiling, no matter how long and how many times you boil it, you're not going to get rid of all the poisons, and it's going to cause all sorts of problems. Now, these things get bigger and bigger. At this point, this was taken in midsummer. They're over 4 feet tall, growing from nothing to 4 feet tall. If you're wondering how big the leaves are, here's my hand compared to a leaf. The leaves can be like 2 of my hands long. So big, big, big plant. Late spring, early summer, they start getting these flowers, and I love the flower. The flower is really cool. So if they'll have these spikes at the ends of the branches, and these flowers will spiral down. And then this is a close-up of an individual flower. It's actually quite pretty. Extremely dangerous, but pretty. So very distinctive. We got the 5 petals, we got the stamen, we got the ovary, the beginning of the fruit. It's what's called a perfect flower, where it has both the male and female parts. So they are self-fertile. Okay. So then after the flowers, you start getting the berries. You can see the berries kind of have almost a tomato-like shape, kind of like, instead of being a round and plump, they're kind of squished and they have the indentations on it. So to me, they always look like little green tomatoes. Do not eat, do not eat, do not eat, do not eat. You got that? Do not eat at this stage. Poisonous. Okay. And then eventually they get, very ripe. Now, amazingly enough, a number of people throughout the year send me pictures of these berries like this and say, hey, this is elderberry, right? And it's like, no, it's not. The only similarity between pokeweed and elderberries is they have the same colored berries, but the structures in which the berries grown are different. The stem of the plants are different. The leaves of the plants are different. Everything is different except the fact that they are purple berries. And so this is one of the things that has taught me that I have to be very careful what I say, because people focus on one little bit of information and then run with it. So berries, stalk, spiral down the stalk, dark black. A couple of people have mentioned here that, if you, the juice from these is very, very staining. It squeezes out a purple sort of juice. That juice has a long history of being used as a dye. It was also used as an ink. In particular, one of the historical uses of the pokeberry ink was used by different Union soldiers who were prisoners of war down in the South during the Civil War. They would use the pokeberry juice to write their letters home, back up to their family and so up in the northern states. So the berry juice, very staining, a good dye, can be used as an ink. Don't eat it. All right. And let me just show you one other picture here. And hopefully, let me see if I can make this bigger. Does this make it any bigger, really? Not really. Let me do this. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Okay, stop there. So the poke root. The poke roots are huge, and they're kind of alien looking. They'll have a big, thick trunk under the ground, and from that, all sorts of tentacles flowing off it. So it really looks like an alien, weird alien plant. And when people talk about poke medicine, along with the berries, they also talk about the root. And I will get to the traditional uses of poke and also, what science says about it. But first, I want to start with the poisons. But first, actually, I want to check to see if there are any comments I should. Oh, actually, okay. So here's let me before we go any farther, Okay, so why would anyone eat one? Do they taste good? Yes. So the leaves, once they've been boiled the 3 times, then you cook them up like collard greens, like in some bacon grease, some bacon, some garlic. Absolutely fantastic and loaded with nutrition. They really are a fantastic food source prepared properly. I often describe the leaves as the puffer fish of wild edibles. Prepared properly, absolutely fantastic. Prepared improperly, you could die. So there's that. Okay. Okay, that looks like all the comments. So now let's start talking about the poisons. The poisons, like I said, are found in the older leaves, older stems, the berries. Now, some people will say, oh, the poisons are only found in the seeds. The juice of the berry is okay. Other people say, no, it's found throughout the entire berry. I have searched and searched and searched for scientific data, scientific research that says where in the berries the poisons are specifically located. I have not found any. Only that the berries have the poisons in them, but they don't say it's only in the seeds, not in the juice, or in the juice and the seeds, but not the skins, or in the skins, the juice, the seeds. All the scientific research just says the berries contain the poison. They don't break it down to the location. So as a scientist, I'm not going to put my livelihood on the line saying it's only in X, because I don't know that for sure. And when you are dealing with these toxins, you need to know that for sure. Okay, so in the pokeweed, when the plant matures, there are 3 different poisons. So let's cover them worst to probably the least worst. And whoops, I need to zoom out a little. Okay, the first poison is a protein. This is the protein structure. And so think of these as these are chains of amino acids and different functional groups. So it's called a lectin. It is a protein, and these have several different properties of what they do when they get in the body of mammals, not just humans, but in mammals in general. This goats, pigs, horses, cows, humans, squirrels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the lectin, the proteins, first thing they do is they cause a clumping of red blood cells. So they cause the red blood cells to clump up. That is bad. That can lead to strokes and blood clots and plugged lungs and all that sort of thing. So that is bad. Now, on the plus side, the concentration is high, but not super, super, super high that your entire bloodstream turns to sludge. So in the scheme of the poisonous effects of the lectin, the clumping of the blood is actually fairly minor. The main thing this does is we have to talk about your stomach. So you have the stomach lining, or your whole gastrointestinal tract. You have certain cells on the membrane surface of the gastrointestinal tract, along with a mucus coating. The protein goes through the mucus coating, binds to the surface proteins on the cells that line your gastrointestinal tract and disrupt the cellular membrane where they attach to. So this means they basically dissolve the cells that line your gastrointestinal tract. So what does this do? Well, your first layer, the walls of your intestines start to fall apart. So 1 berry, maybe not do it. 2 berries, won't do it. 3 berries, you might end up with some ulcer type things. 4, 5, 6, a handful of berries. Suddenly the whole lining of your intestinal tract is going to slough off and leave your body. It may leave as diarrhea or vomiting, bloody diarrhea, but you are suddenly losing your lining of your intestinal tract. This is a bad thing. So, like I said, 1 berry, not enough. 3 or 4 berries, 5 berries, then you can actually start running into problems. At the very least, you'll get horrendous diarrhea and some intestinal lining damage. Think of it as like causing ulcers. That's kind of a description, not exactly what's happening, but you end up putting holes in your intestinal tract. This is bad. Let me just throw up a link for those of you who like science and scientific articles. So I just put up a link there, so you can read about the lectins and the effects they have. Like I said, this sort of intestinal sloughing off or dissolving occurs in pretty much all mammals. So goats, pigs, humans, horses, all that. That's bad. Like I said, losing your intestinal lining, not good. So this is in the berries, this is in the stems. I hear people, I've had people call me out and say, how dare you call these berries poisonous? You know, I eat 2 a day and I'm fine. And it's like, okay, that's great. Go ahead and tell people you eat 2 berries a day. And if you do it on my website, I'm going to start posting this, because if I don't, I am legally responsible for someone eating pokeberries, because I did not say when you posted that you eat 2 a day that no, don't eat, you know, they're poisonous if you eat more. So this is basically my, like I said, my legal saying, hey, I told you, don't eat the berries. So if you ate the berries because someone else told you to eat the berries, don't sue me, sue them. Okay? We good there? All right. Yeah, this is something that's been bothering me. I need water. So, like I said, 1 or 2 doses, maybe you'll get, you know, fine. You'll be regular, whatever. But everything I've seen of humans in, you know, while I'm 52 now, let's say 46 years of observing humans, very rarely do humans follow directions. So that's why I'm saying, okay, the pokeberries, poisonous. But this is just the first poison. As I say, but wait, there's more. But let me just check. Okay. So the next one is an alkaloid, and I will put the name up here. Phytolactasine. And here is the structure. It's a fairly complex structure. And as a chemist, I look at the structure and I look at it and I go, yeah, the heat is not going to do much to this. It's not even going to be very water soluble. The main thing is when the leaves are young, they just haven't produced much of that poison. And, you know, some of it will be destroyed by heat. But for the most part, once you get large quantities of it, there will be so much left over after heating it that it's not going to do anything. So heat, drying, dehydration, none of that gets rid of this alkaloid. So what does this alkaloid do? So its main thing is a powerful gastric irritant. So it's going to cause, you know, think of it as like causing a rash along your gastrointestinal system, in the gastrointestinal system of pretty much any mammal that eats it. So it's just going to cause like the worst heartburn you've ever had all through your gastrointestinal tract. Looking up the different symptoms of the phytolactasine poisoning, one came out in particular is it causes a burning sensation in the alimentary tract or the alimentary canal, basically the rectum. It makes your ass burn like hell. So it's like heartburn of the tuchus, if you will. I'm trying to find a polite way of describing it. So the phytolactasine, it's like poison ivy for the intestinal tract. Very strong irritant, burning sensation through and through, especially towards the end of the tract. So not only are you having explosive diarrhea from the lectin, but as it's passing through this area that's already irritated, it's going to be irritated even more. So, imagine vomiting with a really sore throat, if you will, but, both ends. So, yeah, not a chemical you want, not a chemical that's removed with hot water or boiling or anything like that. Like I said, there's not a lot in the berries. 1-2 berries maybe will be fine, but I'm still going to tell people do not eat it. I'm going to keep telling you over and over and over. So yeah, if you want, a flaming, cornhole, there you go. Pokeweed berries will lead to that. So that's one of the compounds of the two. There is a third. And let me enlarge this a bit too. It's a little out of focus. Now it looks very similar to the previous one. The overall ring structure is very much the same, but some of the stereochemistry and some of the shrubbery, as us chemists call the stuff hanging off the main thing. So this is a triterpene saponin, is the chemical class, and it's phytolactagenin. Phytolactagenin is this particular toxic molecule. And so, among other things, it is kind of like a soap sort of molecule. Don't use it as a soap. What it causes, like if you didn't have those other two, if you just happen to get a dose of this individual molecule, first, it causes extreme abdominal pain. It causes vomiting. It causes diarrhea. It causes impaired coordination, so you can't stand up and walk and get help. It also causes suppression of the respiratory system. So you have problems breathing, and it can lead to entering a coma. So just it by itself is really dangerous. You got the vomiting, you got the diarrhea, you got the suppressed ability to breathe, maybe even going into a coma. Oh, and also muscle weakness. So impaired coordination and overall muscle weakness. So all you can do is just lay there in your own vomit and your own feces. That's a problem. But then you combine this with the other two, really, really, really bad. Okay, now something's jumping up here. So Terry Smith, poke salad makes it sound like good food. Here's the thing. At the right time, Terry, when it's young, and maybe you missed at the beginning. So the young leaves, when it is just coming out of the ground, when it's basically 9 inches or shorter, absolutely fantastic food if you boil it 2 or 3 times and then treat it like collard greens. Extremely dense in vitamins and minerals, extremely nutritious, and really tasty. It's once it gets more than 9 inches tall, that's when you run into all these poisons and all these problems. So when it's young, it's fine. Now, the berries have all those poisons in them. And I keep getting people mistaking these berries for elderberry and asking if they can eat them. And I say, no, they're poisonous. And like I said, whenever I mention on Facebook or Instagram or anything about these berries being poisonous, people come out of the woodwork and start saying, no, they're not. They're great. I eat 2 a day. And it's like, great, you eat 2 a day. But if I say they're edible, someone's going to strip the plant and eat all the berries and die. I don't want that. So, like I said, tonight's thing is to point out the good parts of pokeweed, the young leaves when they're small, extremely nutritious, but then everything else becomes very, very, very dangerous. Oh, here's a great question. So, lectin. Now, the lectin, it's a class of proteins. The lectins, basically a lectin protein is one that will glom on to a carbohydrate. If you had to classify what makes a lectin protein, is it has that structure. Let me bring it up here. The active site, and this area here, that is perfectly aligned to grab onto sugar molecules on the surface of, anything really. Some lectins don't cause that whole stomach dissolving problem. They just, grab on and release and nothing happens. So lectin as a food ingredient, if it's in food, in like a processed food or some other vegetable or something, as long as you are following the proper cooking techniques, that particular lectin, not the poke lectin, but that some other plant lectin, okay. It's the special power of the poke lectin that binds onto the sugar on the surface of the cell wall and then causes that cell wall to fall apart. So the pokeweed lectin causes the cell wall to basically dissolve. So other lectins may or may not do that. So, okay. Can you hunt with poke hose in a concentrated form and coat an arrow? It actually takes about 8 to 10 hours for the effect to hit. So it'd be a slow form, and you probably, depending on what you were hunting, you would have to get the arrow into the stomach. So all things considered, I would say, no, don't try using it as a poison arrow. It would be a slow, miserable, terrible death, assuming you could even get it into the stomach of the creature. And that's just not nice. Okay. All right. Hey, Kathleen, you're just going to have to go back and review. But trust me, I'm repeating myself a lot tonight because I'm trying to drive home a point. Okay. So we talked about the different poisons, what these poisons, these molecules do in the body. So now let's talk about why poke has such a medicinal following. And you've probably heard, let me just check the comments here, the saying that dosage makes the difference. So the difference between medicinal and poison is the dosage. Something in little tiny amounts may actually help the body in certain ways, or at least have an effect on the body that has benefits that outweigh the negatives. So that being said, the pokeweed has a long history of use as medicine. So I actually got a bunch of my medicinal plant books, and I just wanted to talk a little bit. So like the Native American ethnobotany. So when we look up pokeweed in that, it gives a bunch of uses, and so like, the Cherokee used it, the Iroquois, the Delaware, the Oklahoma, all these different Native American tribes use the pokeweed. So mainly, like the Cherokee used the roots and berries to help treat rheumatism. The Delaware also used it, rheumatism, Iroquois, rheumatism. So the Native Americans, they thought the berries would help with rheumatism. Rheumatism is usually an autoimmune inflammation sort of issue where the body is basically attacking the joint tissue. And so the Native Americans in that map of, the North America, a lot of them used it mainly for rheumatism. Okay, let's look at the modern herbal. And this is actually a book. When was this originally published? This is like the 1800s here. 1931. So back 1931, what did they say about poke? And they talk about poke root. And so, they by then they already knew about the phytolactic acid and some of the other things in there. So they say it's mainly a emetic, so basically a laxative and a purgative with narcotic properties. So it basically makes you vomit, makes you throw up, and kind of makes you pass out. Okay, yeah, that will do that. Also in it for rheumatism. Okay, so again, we got the rheumatism. Basically, these people were copying the North American, what the Native Americans used it. So if we look at Indian herbology of North America, so the medicinal plants of the Native Americans. Whoops, there's some comments here. Oops. Again, they talk about poke root. And bodily functions, emetic, catharic alternative, and a deobstructant. So by focus, a deobstructant, it helps unblock things, like a blocked intestine maybe. So, but again, they talk about, like a tincture, 2 to 5 drops of the root tincture, made by 1 tablespoon of the root in 1 pint of boiling water. So a very, very small amount, 2 to 5 drops of 1 tablespoon boiled in 1 pint of water. Okay, and that's to cause vomiting and diarrhea and basically get things moving. Okay, and then my own personal favorite one when it comes to science, the herbal vademecum. And they also talk about poke. Let's focus. So again, they talk about the saponins, the alkaloids, the different things like there. So the internally chronic rheumatism complaints, and then also, but due to extreme toxicity, is obsolete. Externally used for bruises, sprains, swellings. I like the caution. Caution, poke is very toxic and not for self-treatment. Symptoms of intoxication are nausea, vomiting, abdominal cramps, watery diarrhea, weakness, bronchial spasms, rapid heartbeat, lowered blood pressure, among others. So again, lots of warnings from once we start getting into something that prides itself on scientific studies of the plants. Okay. Oops. Okay. And then, of course, there's the, Peterson's Field Guide, Medicinal Plants and Herbs. Pokeweed, they even have the little skull and crossbones there. So if we flip to the next page, American Indians use berry tea for rheumatism, arthritis, dysentery, berries poultice on sore breasts. Old-timers in the Ozarks still eat 1 pokeberry per year as a preventative or to treat arthritis. 1 pokeberry per year. Pretty interesting. I'm sorry if I'm coming across as a jerk, by the way, but this is just something that, I need to talk about. Okay. And then it goes into all the, highly toxic, vomiting, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So I need a drink of water here. Let's see. Yep. Like I said, the properly prepared poke salad leaves, absolutely fantastic. I'm a big fan of them. I tell people eat the leaves when they're small, when the whole plant is under 9 inches tall. Beyond that, don't do anything with it. So, here's a good, no, poke is not a member of the nightshade family. It sounds like it should be, but it's not. Okay, so now what does science actually say about poke? And so, Tina, you're going to like this. So if we put this up here, here's the link. And let me go over here and bring it up here. And stop sharing the screen and share the screen. Application window. Okay. So the National Center for Biological Institute, blah, 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 the NCBI PubMed, if you do a search there, what do you find? What do they say? So what they find is that there are actually some antiviral and anti-cancer properties in the root. So anti-cancer and antiviral in the root. So there is actually a number of articles showing there are some, as far as I'm concerned, proven medicinal properties. And in this case, especially like inhibition of the herpes simplex virus. So there's some compounds in the poke root in a tincture that will work against the herpes virus. And there are some that work against, in one case, it helps stop the spread of some colon cancer cells. Okay, so cool. There's actually some proven medicinal properties, but they're not things you want to do at home. They require a lot of very careful work and careful dosing. One of the things with plants, like going back to, I don't even remember which one said it was a Modern Herbal from 1931 that said 1 tablespoon of poke root boiled in 1 pint of water. Well, there's no telling how much of the poisons it's going to be in that 1 tablespoon, depending on the time of year, the part of the root, variations from plant to plant. They might get a root that's fairly low in the poisons and happen to have the right compounds for the antiviral or the anti-cancer, or you might end up, having way too much. There's no way of controlling the actual amount of the poisons versus the quote unquote good molecules. So when it comes to anti-cancer, prickly pear, amazingly good, easy to use, easy to eat, tasty prickly pear fruit, and the pads have all sorts of anti-cancer properties. I did a whole show on cancer-fighting plants earlier this year. So check that out if you want to fight cancer. Antiviral. There's a whole bunch of plants that have antiviral properties that don't have the dangers associated with it. Okay. So yeah, theoretically, there are some scientific uses, or science has shown, there's compounds in the root that will interfere with viruses, can interfere with very specific types of cancer. But the negatives of the plant are way too big, in my opinion, for self-treatment. Now, I see some good questions here, and I'll get to them in a second. One of the things you noticed was starting with the Native Americans using it to treat rheumatism, there were no scientific studies that supported that had any sort of effect on rheumatism. There's nothing for any of those poisons. There might be some other thing in the plant, but there were no scientific studies for it helping with rheumatism, unlike a number of other plants that have Like turmeric is a great one that help with the pain of rheumatism. CBD, the isolate from the hemp, great for rheumatism. No scientific proof with the pokeweed. So that being said, it has a long history. Maybe it has some use. It's just science hasn't found it. Okay, great. I will not stop an herbalist who knows what they're doing from using pokeweed. And if they get good results, excellent. If anything, I hope that is the case, that as the herbalists who know what they are doing and are very careful with it and in their preparations and so forth, if eventually science proves that there is some rheumatoid helpingness to the plant, then awesome. It's just me personally, with a following of 25,000 people, I'm not going to say it's okay to eat the berry, because people won't eat just one. They will eat handfuls. There are those people out there. Okay, so this is a good question. And I don't know the answer to it, Sandra, as to why birds can eat it, but others can't. But then like poison ivy is another one. The irritating compounds, the aerosol oils in poison ivy will cause reactions in most mammals, but not in birds. So there's something different, I'm guessing, because the split between mammals and birds happened far enough back that the stomach lining of the birds is chemically very different than the stomach lining of the mammals. Either like the birds may not have those sugar molecules that the lectin will grab onto and then cause it to dissolve, or there's something about the membrane structure itself that isn't dissolved by it. It's a fascinating thing, but just the fact that they split so far back in history is my particular guess. So just the chemistry of the cells involved is so different between mammals and birds that it doesn't affect the birds. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Now that's a good question. So the studies, one of the ones that I posted up there, it was run on a number of different mammals. And then after feeding them, different berries based on the overall mass of the animal, the intestinal tracts of the animals were harvested and examined, and all of them were found to have damage. Now, the amount of berries they were eating would have been more than the equivalent. If a person was eating 2 berries, it would have been like these animals eating like, a fifth of a berry to a half a berry. So those eating 1 to 2 berries a day, I don't know. That'd be a really interesting question. If you are someone out there that eats 1 to 2 berries a day or a year or whatever, and have had a colonoscopy, we'd love to hear what the doctors found. That would be something, that would be really interesting, Kiri, actually. All right, Tina, yes, I was very sure this was the case, that you were not including pokeweed in it. Okay. Holy, wow. Okay, it's after 9 o'clock. I got so tied up in this. All right. Okay. No, it's not like Ipecac. And that the Ipecac basically irritates the stomach just enough to cause it to throw up, whereas the pokeberries cause your stomach lining to dissolve and fall out of your body, and also cause horrific spasms that cause it to go out both ends. So no. Okay. At this point, oh yeah, we'll throw this up there too. I'm going a bit long, but yeah, hopefully now you understand why I will never say that a pokeberry is edible, because it doesn't take many to cause all sorts of really terrible damage to a person. So yeah, those of you eating 1 berry a day, 1 berry a year, you go for it. Absolutely, you be you. That's great. I'm not going to stop you, but I am never going to tell people to do that. Okay. Hey, Deborah, you showed up just in time for me to sign off. Okay. Last thing I'm going to say, two things. First, due to family issues, the Merriwether's World is going to be moved to Thursday starting next week. So we're moving from Wednesdays to Thursdays. Next week, I will be discussing hackberry, a great plant, an absolutely wonderful plant with no poisonous type stuff to it. Really, really, really good plant. And I want to introduce you to the hackberry now, just as we're entering. Well, we're like a month out before them becoming really ripe, so you'll be looking for them. And then is it the week after that or 2 weeks after that? I'm going to throw you up here. So Rebecca Snow, author, sci-fi type books. I will be talking to her on Rebecca, hopefully August 27th, because after I set up the August 26th show with you, the family thing came up, and so I need to move, for the school year, or at least the first semester. The Merriwether's World has to be on Thursdays, so I'll send you an email, and hopefully that will still work for you. Okay. 5 minutes over. Thank you all. I don't know if you got anything from this. Hopefully you did, but have a great evening. See a lot of you tomorrow morning at the donut shop at the beginning of the world. Same place here, 7:30 to 8 a.m. No idea what the topic will be. Probably end up being plant poisons or something like that. Oh yeah. So go to Uncommon Bees if you're looking for the CBD stuff to deal with different chronic pains. And remember, they also have the coupon code that'll give you 25% off between now and midnight. Okay. Whew. Good night, all. Somebody closes. I'll leave that up there. Have a great one.